The Galactic Council's emergency session had never seen such panic. Admiral Xexthor's forearms trembled as he activated the holographic display, showing 7 red-marked worlds across the outer rim. "Gentlemen," his voice cracked through the translation matrix, "we have a problem that defies all known xenobiology protocols." Captain Jake Morrison sat in the cramped observation pod, his weathered face pressed against the viewport as their transport approached Kepler 442b. Behind him, his 12-year-old daughter Emma played with what the crew had initially mistaken for Earth's most docile creature, until they witnessed it tear through a titanium bulkhead during feeding time. "Dad, Brutus is hungry again," Emma said casually, scratching behind the honey badger's ears. The animal's black and white fur rippled over muscles that seemed far too dense for its compact frame. Jake turned from the viewport, his steel-gray eyes reflecting years of military service. We've talked about this. Brutus needs to stay in his." The ship lurched violently. Emergency klaxons wailed as something massive struck their hull. Through the viewport, Jake saw them, creatures that shouldn't exist outside of humanity's worst nightmares. The Xenith Hunters, each the size of a small aircraft, their obsidian carapaces gleaming with bioluminescent threat displays. "All colonists to emergency pods." Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're under attack by indigenous apex predators." But as the first Xenith Hunter breached the hull with plasma-heated claws, something unprecedented happened. Brutus, all 30 pounds of Earth's most fearless mammal, took one look at the 10-foot-tall alien death machine and did what honey badgers do best. He attacked. The Xenith Hunter's shriek of confusion echoed through the ship as Brutus latched onto its primary sensory cluster, his jaws crushing through what the aliens considered impenetrable bioarmor. The creature that had terrorized 3 separate galactic expeditions began thrashing in genuine panic. "That's impossible," whispered Dr. Reeves, the expedition's xenobiologist. "Nothing that small should be able to." Emma stood up, her young face set with determination. "Brutus, heal." The honey badger immediately released his grip and trotted back to Emma, leaving the apex predator bleeding fluorescent ichor and making sounds that could only be described as whimpering. Jake stared at his daughter, then at Brutus, then at the retreating alien predator. In his 20 years of military service, including tours on Mars and Europa, he had never seen anything like this. "Emma," he said slowly, "I think we need to have a talk about exactly what Brutus is." 3 days after the incident, the research station on Kepler 442b buzzed with activity. Dr. Samuel Harrison, the expedition's lead behavioral scientist, paced frantically around his makeshift laboratory while reviewing footage from the attack. "It's not just the physical capabilities," he muttered to his research partner, Dr. Vincent Cole. "Look at these readings. The honey badger's stress hormones actually decreased during combat with the Xenith Hunter." Vincent, a grizzled veteran of interplanetary fauna studies, shook his head in disbelief. "Sam, in 30 years of studying apex predators across 12 worlds, I've never seen anything like this. Most Earth mammals would have died of shock just seeing a Xenith Hunter." Jake entered the lab, Emma trailing behind with Brutus, riding on her shoulders like the world's most dangerous pet. The honey badger's dark eyes surveyed the room with what could only be described as casual contempt for everything present. "Gentlemen," Jake said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to command, "I need to know what we're dealing with. My daughter thinks Brutus is just a special pet, but I've seen combat footage from the Centauri conflicts. Nothing should be able to do what that animal did." Dr. Harrison activated a holographic display showing Brutus's biological scans. "Captain Morrison, this honey badger exhibits cellular density patterns that are off the charts. His bone structure is denser than titanium steel composites. His muscle fibers are unlike anything we've cataloged, and his nervous system." He paused, struggling for words. "His nervous system processes pain differently. Not reduced pain, weaponized pain." "What does that mean?" Emma asked, absently feeding Brutus a protein bar that he consumed wrapper and all. Vincent leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It means, young lady, that your pet doesn't just ignore pain. He gets stronger from it. Every injury, Every threat, every challenge makes him more aggressive and more capable. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Doc, are you telling me that honey badgers are some kind of biological weapon? Not weapons, Dr. Harrison corrected. There's something far more terrifying. They're Earth's response to the concept of impossible odds. The room fell silent except for the gentle sound of Brutus grooming himself, completely unconcerned with being the subject of intense scientific scrutiny. Outside the station, movement stirred in the alien forest. The Xenith Hunters were regrouping, calling for reinforcements from their apex predator hierarchy. What they didn't know was that they had just issued a challenge to a species that had spent millions of years evolving one simple philosophy. Bring it on. 6 months later, Admiral Xenith's species had ruled the Outer Rim for 3 millennia. Their massive frames and natural plasma weapons making them the undisputed masters of interstellar warfare. Today, he cowered before a holographic display showing 7 different worlds. The reports are consistent, he wheezed to the assembled council. On Xerion Prime, a single Earth-human child and her honey badger defeated an entire pack of Shadowmaw Titans. Council member Virik, whose species had conquered 12 systems through pure savagery, leaned forward. Defeated. Admiral. The Shadowmaw Titans, apex predators that had never known fear, fled. Council members. Creatures that hunt in packs of 20, each capable of tearing through starship hulls, ran from a mammal weighing less than their smallest claw. Dr. Harrison stood at the podium in the human sector, his report causing ripples of disbelief throughout the chamber. Behind him, footage played from 7 different worlds, all showing the same impossible scene. Emma Morrison and Brutus facing down alien apex predators and winning. On the Nix-7, Dr. Harrison continued, the legendary Bone Crushers, predators that had eliminated 3 separate colonization attempts, encountered the girl and her honey badger. The result was the first recorded instance of an apex predator species voluntarily abandoning their primary hunting grounds. Captain Rodriguez, now military liaison for the Human Colonial Authority, added his observations. What we're seeing isn't just random aggression. The honey badger seems to understand each predator's psychology. Against the Xerion Shadowmaws, he used their pack mentality against them. Against the Nix Bone Crushers, he targeted their hierarchical dominance displays. In the human observation section, Jake Morrison watched the proceedings with growing unease. Emma sat beside him, Brutus curled in her lap like any ordinary pet. The disconnect between the council's terror and his daughter's casual affection for the animal was becoming harder to ignore. Dad, Emma whispered. Why do they keep calling Brutus scary? He's never hurt anyone who wasn't trying to hurt us first. Jake looked down at his daughter. 12 years old, blonde pigtails, gap-toothed smile, and at the creature that had somehow become the most feared name in 7-star systems. I think that might be exactly why he's so scary. The council chamber erupted in heated debate as Admiral Xenith presented his final slide. A star map showing the migration patterns of apex predators across 17 worlds, all moving away from any system known to contain humans with honey badgers. Honored Council, Admiral Xenith concluded. We may have encountered the first species capable of psychological warfare against instinct itself. The message reached the Morrison expedition 3 weeks after the council session. All apex predator species are converging on Rigel 7. They've chosen to make their stand. Colonel David Steele, the expedition's new military commander, stood in the briefing room addressing his team. His scarred hands gestured toward the tactical display showing massive biosignatures converging on a single world. Gentlemen, we're looking at something unprecedented in galactic history, Steele announced. Every major apex predator species has abandoned their territorial instincts to form an alliance. Xenith Hunters, Shadowmaw Titans, Bone Crushers, Void Stalkers, Crystal Raptors, Plasma Wraiths, and the Quantum Devourers, natural enemies working together for the first time in recorded history. Jake felt the weight of every eye in the room turning to him and Emma. His daughter sat quietly, Brutus draped across her shoulders like a furry scarf, seemingly oblivious to the mounting tension. Their goal is simple, Steele continued. Eliminate the threat. Specifically, eliminate the human girl and her honey badger before their influence spreads further. Dr. Harrison stepped forward, his face pale with exhaustion from weeks of research. Colonel, our analysis shows that Brutus isn't just affecting individual predators anymore. He's somehow disrupting the fundamental predator-prey dynamic that has existed for millions of years across multiple biospheres. How is that possible? Asked Commander Rex Hunter, the expedition's chief pilot. Vincent Cole, now serving as the team's xenobiology specialist, activated a complex display showing neural pattern analysis. The honey badger's behavior is creating what we can only describe as an apex paradox. Every predator species has evolved with the understanding that there's always something bigger, stronger, faster. Brutus represents something they can't categorize, a creature that doesn't follow the rules of natural hierarchy. Emma raised her hand like she was in school. Can I ask a question? The room full of hardened military veterans and brilliant scientists turned to the 12-year-old girl whose pet had accidentally triggered an interstellar crisis. Why don't we just explain to the alien predators that Brutus doesn't want to hurt them? He only fights when something tries to hurt us first. The silence stretched for several seconds before Colonel Steele spoke carefully. Emma, I'm not sure they're capable of understanding that concept. To them, there are only predators and prey. Brutus lifted his head and fixed Steele with a stare that seemed to contain the accumulated wisdom of countless generations of honey badgers facing impossible odds. Then he yawned, showing teeth that had carved through alien bioarmor, and went back to sleep. Sir, Commander Hunter said quietly, the alien fleet has entered the Rigel system. Long-range sensors show. Christ, there are thousands of them. Jake placed a protective hand on Emma's shoulder. 20 years of military service had taught him to recognize when a situation was about to go from bad to catastrophic. Colonel, he said, what exactly are we flying into? Steele's expression was grim. The largest gathering of apex predators in galactic history, Captain Morrison. They've chosen their battlefield, and they're waiting for us. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to hold their breath as humanity's most unlikely warrior prepared to face the ultimate test of her companion's legendary fearlessness. The planet's surface looked like something from humanity's darkest mythology. 7 distinct species of apex predators had claimed territories across the barren landscape, their bioluminescent markings creating an eerie light show against the alien twilight. At the center of their formation sat a cleared area, the arena they had designated for their confrontation with the small human and her impossible companion. Jake Morrison gripped the transport's control stick, his knuckles white with tension. Beside him, Emma hummed quietly while braiding small flowers she'd found on their last stop into Brutus's fur. The honey badger tolerated this with the patience of a creature that had faced down the galaxy's most feared predators and found them wanting. Emma, Jake said softly, you understand what's happening here, right? These aren't just animals. They're the deadliest creatures from 7 different worlds, and they're all here for one reason. Emma looked up from her flower braiding, her blue eyes serious. Dad, I know they're scared. Brutus knows too. That's why we have to show them they don't need to be. Colonel Steele's voice crackled over the calm Morrison. Are you sure about this? We can still extract you and find another solution. Jake looked at his daughter, then at Brutus, who had opened one dark eye and was regarding him with what could only be described as amused patience. No, Colonel. I think Emma's right. This needs to end here. The transport touched down in the designated arena. Through the viewports, they could see the gathered apex predators, thousands of creatures representing millions of years of evolutionary perfection, all united by a single, unprecedented emotion. Fear. Emma climbed out of the transport first, Brutus riding on her shoulder. The assembled predators shifted restlessly, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of growls, shrieks, and subsonic rumbles that would have paralyzed most humans with terror. Hi, Emma called out, her young voice carrying across the alien landscape. My name is Emma, and this is Brutus. I think there's been a misunderstanding. The Xenith Hunter that had first encountered them stepped forward, its massive frame dwarfing the small human. It spoke through a translation device, its voice like grinding metal. Small human Emma, your creature has broken the natural order. Apex predators do not flee. Yet we flee. This cannot be. Emma nodded seriously. I understand. Brutus, show them. The honey badger dropped from Emma's shoulder and walked calmly toward the assembled predators. Instead of attacking, he sat down in the center of the arena and began grooming himself with methodical precision. Dr. Harrison's voice came through Jake's earpiece. Captain, I'm reading something extraordinary. The honey badger's pheromone output has shifted completely. He's not projecting aggression, he's projecting confidence? No, that's not right. He's projecting contentment. The largest Shadowmaw Titan, a creature the size of a subway car, approached cautiously. Its pack followed, their usual predatory coordination replaced by obvious confusion. The Titan sniffed the air around Brutus, then made a sound that was unmistakably puzzled. Emma walked over to stand beside Brutus. He's not your enemy, she explained to the gathered predators. He's just Brutus. He doesn't hunt you because he doesn't need to. He doesn't fear you because he's a honey badger and honey badgers don't really fear anything. A quantum devourer, its crystalline form refracting the alien sunset into prismatic patterns, spoke through harmonic resonance. But if he does not fear and does not hunt, what is he? Emma smiled, the expression transforming her young face. He's free. And maybe that's what you're really afraid of. Not that he's stronger or more dangerous, but that he's found a way to exist without being afraid of anything. The silence that followed was profound. 7 species of apex predators, creatures that had defined themselves through conquest and dominance, contemplated a concept that challenged everything they understood about existence. Brutus finished his grooming, looked around at the thousands of assembled predators, and did something that would be recorded in xenobiology textbooks for centuries to come. He yawned and curled up for a nap, completely unconcerned with the most dangerous gathering in galactic history. The Xenith Hunter was the first to understand. Free, it repeated slowly. Not prey, not predator. Free. One by one, the apex predators began to disperse, returning to their worlds with a new concept to contemplate. They had come seeking to eliminate a threat and instead discovered a possibility they had never considered: existence without fear. Jake watched his daughter collect Brutus and head back to the transport, humming the same tune she'd been humming all day. Emma, he called out, how did you know that would work? She turned back, grinning. Dad, Brutus taught me something really important. Sometimes the scariest thing in the universe isn't what might hurt you. It's realizing you don't have to be scared at all. As their transport lifted off from Rigel 7, Jake realized that his daughter and her remarkable companion hadn't just solved an interstellar crisis. They had accidentally introduced an entirely new concept to the galaxy. That true strength might not come from being the apex predator, but from being so confident in yourself that you don't need to prove it to anyone. Behind them, the apex predators of 7 worlds began their journey home, each carrying with them the revolutionary idea that there might be another way to exist. One that didn't require fear, dominance, or the constant struggle to prove their position in the natural hierarchy. The honey badger, as always, remained supremely unconcerned with the philosophical implications of his existence. He had more important things to worry about, like whether Emma had remembered to pack his favorite treats for the trip home.